Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our preview for the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 5. Now, if you are a very big time fan of the White Lotus, you're probably noticing one thing that's very unusual about this episode already, and that is we are going straight into the night. This is the format breaking episode of this show, and I feel on the basis of that, this may be one of the most important episodes of this entire season, if not maybe the craziest episode of the whole series.
Yeah, I mean, they're setting up something very, very different with this episode.
It's going to be crazy. We've got Rick making some hard decisions. We clearly are going to have Tim making some hard decisions based on what's in his possession now.
Yeah, I mean, we really need to get into what is Tim going to decide? What is he going to do with what he has in his possession? Is this something that he's going to do to other people? Is it something he's going to do to himself? Is it something he's going to do to his family? Or is he possibly just going to hide out in Thailand? I mean, there is a lot of different ways that this can go, especially with Guy Talk coming in and being like, you have something of mine.
Okay, we also just need to go ahead and say this about Guy Talk. Is this dude gonna get fired? I think that we have not discussed this enough, how he is quite possibly the worst employee we have ever seen through any season of this show. He's a nice guy, but he seems to think his job is thirsting after Mook, which is actually not his job.
Yeah, I mean, he had a talking to in this last episode, but it seems like it didn't really work out. I mean, he made a huge oopsie right away with everything with this, and now he's got to fix it.
Okay, well, we're going to get into all of this. We have theories aplenty. Before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we're here through all of the White Lotus Season 3 with reviews, a lot of theories. This is a really, really fun season. And by subscribing, not only do you help us to get to 70,000, a really big milestone, but that also helps to make sure you also don't miss our coverage of Severance coming into the finale before too long, and also Yellow Jackets.
You can also support us further by joining our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. Over there, we are covering exclusively The Pit, which is airing on Max right now. And coming up is going to be Bosch Legacy, its final season. We're going to be covering that weekly over there as well. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you, guys. We really, really appreciate that.
Okay, let's really dive into this preview when it comes to Tim, because it feels like big decisions are going to be made in this episode. He's really going to have to face the decision that he did make by taking this gun and what he planned to do with it, because it felt like to me, tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
That he was just going to do something to himself, that he felt like there was no way out from the situation that he's in. He saw the messages on his phone and was like, okay, so I'm just going to end up in jail? No, I'm going to take another way out.
Yeah, he's basically built this castle made of sand that is his life, his family, but the thing about a sandcastle is the tide's always going to come rolling in, right? And it's just going to turn into just like nasty goop that somebody's going to step in next time they're on the beach. And he is really, ironically, stepping in it himself at this point because, yeah, there's no easy escape. Everybody's going to find out everything. He might end up going to prison. This is a very prideful guy. This is also a very shallow guy who's not going to be able to handle that, or so he thinks. I think he makes a very quick impulse decision when it comes to taking our Chekhov's gun here because he sees it and he's just like, I need to find a way out. Now, as terrible as Guy Talk may be at this job, which we have lined out already, I do think he's going to step in before Tim ultimately has a chance to do anything, just because, there's footage. There's also a limited number of people, and he also sees him walking a certain direction. It does not take a master detective to try to piece some things together.
Yeah, the real question is Tim going to admit it? Is Tim going to give it back? I mean, Guy Talk might be in a real difficult situation because he can't exactly admit that he left it out for a guest to be able to take. I mean, what's his other solution here? He can't take the footage to the higher ups and be like, I know I messed up a bunch of times and I should probably be fired, but also this has happened now. Tim has this and it's my fault. And it's, I mean, what are the higher ups going to do anyways? They're not going to want to go to a guest to accuse them of something, especially if it's not for sure, for sure. We don't know what angle security footage might be at. It might be the back of him. We don't know, right? Like it would have to be like red-handed to have the higher ups actually go to a guest and ask them this.
Well, here's the other interesting part of this is that what if Guy Talk does ask for the weapon back and Tim ends up becoming sort of the personification of that no, I don't think I will meme where he just doesn't do it. And then Guy Talk is in a spot where he's like, okay, do I take this by force? Because here's the thing about Guy Talk, and this is very ironic coming from somebody who previously thought he might be involved in the robbery earlier this season. I don't know if he has the guts to be able to actually snatch this from Tim because I don't really have a lot of faith in Guy Talk being able to do anything at this point.
Yeah, it would have to be out of real desperation that he doesn't want to lose this job
Yeah.
because Guy Talk, I feel, will easily overpower him if he wants to. Now that we kind of know what's going on with him and that he is a stronger guy, he's a younger guy. We know that Tim has been, taking these meds and
Yeah.
drinking, and he's not thinking right, and he's not feeling right. He's not at the top of his game.
Yeah, I am in the camp right now where I'm not sitting here and being like, oh, this is a total red herring, because I do think that this gun could somehow be involved still at the end of this season. It just feels like we are at the halfway point of season 3 right now. It has never been the White Lotus way to get to that big premiere scene before a finale. And maybe that is the big twist this season, that it comes a lot sooner than we would really think. I just don't believe that's the case. And I think instead it's going to divert us a little bit in one direction, but also still be like, okay, you need to keep this in mind because we might be coming back to it somehow.
Yeah, I just don't feel that Tim is the person that's taking everybody out. I feel like it's possible that that particular gun is the one, but now we also know that Rick has one. So
Yes.
is it possible then that after whatever confrontation is going to happen with Jim, that he brings that back to the resort and it turns into a problem that way? There's now seemingly going to be, based on this preview, two that are going to be floating out in the ether.
I have this weird dark comedy sort of idea that there's going to be more and more of these things that kind of surface after each episode. And by the time we get to the finale, there's just going to be 5 of them floating around. And it's like, who's going to do something with them? Now, since we're on Rick here, like there's already been a lot of theories I've seen out there, including in our own comments, that are like, okay, maybe this Jim guy is still Rick's father and Rick is just not aware of it. And this is going to be like a twist within a twist where he thought one thing about his father and he was just told something very, very different. Is this possible? Yes, I do think there's a world in which that happens.
All theories are on the table.
Yeah, do I want that to be what happens? I think personally, I'm fine with it being exactly what's been spelled out already, just because that really puts the onus on Rick himself and what Rick is going to do rather than trying to have him process like a whole nother mountain of information.
Yeah, I feel like this story, the way that it's being told, is the richer story, that it doesn't turn out to be his father. It turns out to be exactly what's going on. And him sort of having that facing him of, am I going to do this? Am I going to kill him? Is this actually going to make me feel better? Is this actually going to help me not feel empty in the end of it? And the answer is probably not. It's probably not going to actually help him in any way whatsoever. It's going to make things way worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just going to be right back where he started. And I think that's the more interesting story.
Yeah, I think this show's about emotional development in a way, one way or
Yeah,
another. And I
it
think
is.
this season in particular, it's a lot about spirituality. And while I think there's going to be a lot of action, I don't think that Mike White wants to get too hung up on all of the particulars when it comes to Rick and this guy, mostly just because there's so many other stories that are going on here. And I want Rick to get closure on this sooner rather than later, even if it's, he's calling in a friend, his friend brings some sort of weapon, he doesn't end up using it. Because I think in the end, I just want to see him get back to Chelsea, who's in this really interesting position now where she's still a part of this boat crew that is in the midst of all this party time, and yet I don't think there's going to be any funny business with her. I think
No.
we know that this show, there has been a little bit of cheating that's been going on the White Lotus over time. I don't think that's going to be what happens to her. I think she's going to spend a lot of her time just worrying about Rick while all this is happening.
Yeah, I think she genuinely just likes Chloe and wants to hang out and have a friendship while
Mhm.
her man is off doing what he's doing, but she is genuinely worried. I think it is very interesting that Chloe mentions the idea that Greg might kill her. And there's part of me,
Mhm.
tinfoil hat,
All right.
that she suspects that Greg has killed Tanya. I think that she has probably Googled and interneted Greg already and knows who he is and just doesn't care. That she's just like, yeah, I'm here for the money. I'm here for the good time.
Yeah.
You know, could he maybe have done this? Sure, but it just doesn't really matter because I'm not going to marry him. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the love, but really I'm here for the money. And we both know what this relationship is.
Yeah, and I think because that has been her priority, I think she's just moved forward with this philosophy of, okay, if I never question anything,
Mhm.
I never bring up his past, I'm getting the financial benefit of this, I'm getting to live in Thailand, I'm getting X, Y, and Z. I don't need to worry about something happening when it comes to Greg slash Carrie taking me out because I'm never going to do anything that gets to that point. But I
Yeah.
think here's the thing in life, you can kind of put blinders on for a certain amount of time, but I think sooner rather than later, those fears are going to go back to the surface, especially if it gets to a situation where you've got Saxon kind of roaming around this boat, basically being like, hey, look at my muscles, look at my protein shake, and doing all these sort of things. And his charms may be working on her, or his charms may be working on her to some extent. Like, that's where maybe that fear starts to rise a little bit.
Yeah, I just feel that it's very telling from this promo that she is going to say that he might kill her. And then she had no reaction when Belinda had come up and was kind of like, hey, are you this
Mhm.
person? I really recognize you. She didn't really have any reaction to it, which means that either she didn't know about it or she does know about it and she doesn't care.
I think it's something that it has to come up. And I think it's going to even more based on what's happening right now with Belinda because she's got the information and
Mhm.
it seems like she's still in a spot moving into this next episode where she kind of has to figure out, okay, like, what am I going to do with this information? It's like my fellow colleagues here at the White Lotus, these are not the police, even if they were the police. This is Thailand. This is not Sicily. Like, it really does feel like pending some like really crazy move where she's able to rope in the Sicilian authorities or find some sort of other information. Like,
Mhm.
you don't even seemingly know Portia, so I don't know how you ever track her down. It just feels like she's kind of doomed.
Yeah, I mean, she is telling her colleague about it in this
Yeah.
promo, but like, what's he gonna do about it? It feels very much like she is kind of stuck at this point. I was thinking she might end up telling her son,
Mhm.
and her son might have more of an idea of what to do about it. Cause like, I don't know what her colleague is really gonna say at this point. What is he supposed to do with this information? What are the two of them
Yeah.
supposed to do with this information? Is this something that they would take into their own hands? I just don't think so. I don't think Belinda is invested enough to like go take Greg out or something along those lines.
Yeah, like I think she wants justice for Tanya, sure, but I think there's limits to how far you can go or are willing to go. And from everything we've seen about her colleague here, there's only a couple of things we actually know.
Mhm.
One of them is that he's helping to guide her on this spiritual journey, and two, he is freakishly handsome. And I just don't think those two things
10
like
out of 10.
that none of those things chart out to being like, okay, I'm now going to be a part of this super secret operation with you.
Yeah.
Okay, now because this is a nighttime episode and because it just feels like we're really building to something, this is even more of a two-parter than I think anything we've seen on the White Lotus. I'm
Mhm.
just sitting here and being like, okay, there's going to be a really huge, surprising twist that happens over the course of this. And this is where we have been critical over the past couple of episodes of the whole Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori storyline. Like, it's not really moving. I'm going to bring something to the table
All
here.
right. All right.
is it possible that Valentine's friends here are the robbers? Because it just feels like the dude with the big tattoo, and I'm not meaning to just be like super judgmental here. Anytime a dude has a tattoo like that, that's like it goes all the way to like, are you ever gonna trust that person?
Yes, why not? Tattoos don't mean anything like that anymore. It's not like back in the day where it's like, oh, you have a tattoo? No, no, no. Badness
No,
is coming
just
with
that
tattoos.
tattoo,
Everybody has a
that
tattoo
one.
these days except for you.
It's just that guy. That guy, the tattoo, the way he looks. I needed some time to percolate on it, but now I'm just like, I don't trust that guy.
No, I don't trust that guy either. Not I don't trust any of them. And I don't think that, well, for me it's not about the tattoo. It's just it's very odd, this whole situation that we saw in the promo. They're all like, dancing, seemingly like they're partying, gonna hook up
Yeah.
maybe. It could just be that these three friends are at a crossroads with their relationships with each other, with their relationships outside of this. One is married longer, one is married a little bit, one is divorced. They're all trying to figure themselves out. Here come these three younger guys that are like, yeah, let's go, let's party. This is what you've asked for. Okay, no problem.
I'm in this spot where I'm just really wondering, okay, like what if something happens to one of these three? Like maybe they do get robbed, maybe something else happens, maybe they get involved in some sort of crazy brawl. I think the question then becomes like, okay, which one of these friends can you really trust to have your back? Because Jacqueline couldn't even handle being at another resort with old people. I don't know, or
Or
even
being like having some water put on her. Like, I know it was a lot of water, and I know it's irritating when you're like,
yes.
I've done my hair. I'm not here to get soaked. I want to go out tonight. Yeah, it's all irritating, but it's not this.
No, it's just the question with a lot of friendship is like when the chips are down, who can you really rely on? And I think the answer for them is going to be nobody. I just think that this, maybe it has to do with Valentine's friends, maybe it doesn't. It just feels like this is the episode where things are really going to hit the fan for these three because they are out there in the world in a way in which they haven't been, and they've been very insulated. I think both in terms of this vacation and also really in terms of their lives, to the point where, like you said, they are getting offended and upset about water guns.
Yeah, it's just children playing. It's not that deep, guys. They're not targeting you. I mean, they are, but they're at the door. But it's still just kids having fun, right? Like, stop it. But let's talk about
Mhm.
other kids. Let's talk about Piper, because it looks like she's going to have that conversation, and Victoria's not going to really be handling it that well. I mean, she said, we have this perfect family, and then
Yeah.
something comes along and pulls it apart. Tinfoil hat. I just
Yeah.
don't think she's talking about Piper.
I think, well, this is the thing. It's that this is a very, on the surface, superficial family. And I think there are a lot of
Yeah.
superficial aspects to them. But, we did get into this a little bit in the review. It's just like, there's something more with Victoria. It's a hard thing.
100%.
It's hard to figure out because she is just so flighty and she's talking about, oh, I need my pills. I got to do this, that. I can't talk to these people. There's something that is deeper there that I think we're going to see unravel. And I don't think it's just about Piper, because Piper's not, from what we have seen, Piper's not that deep of a character so far. The only thing that's
Yeah.
really important about Piper is she wants to be there with the monks, seemingly. She does not want to be there with their family. Can she find a way to make that happen? And if she can, I'm assuming she's going to be happy and stay there. But who really knows? Maybe there's another twist with that too.
Yeah, there might be.
But that's where we are entering episode 5 of the White Lotus
Mhm.
season 3. I think this one's going to be really, really fun. So let us know what you think is going to happen. What sort of huge twist are you expecting? And hit that subscribe button for more reviews, theories, all sorts of good stuff on season 3. And you can
Mhm.
support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description below. We are covering exclusively there in video form The Pit on Max. And like Jess said, we are covering Bosch Legacy very, very soon. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.